As we discussed in part 1 of Anthology of Houses series about evolution of an experimentation, in part 2 we shall discuss the larger operative metaphor that has been experimented on houses and enabled larger architectural discourses which has influenced the academics and practices around the world. We shall be uploading similar lecture on architecture and urbanism in our YouTube channel between architecture and urbanism. Le Corbusier passionately demonstrated the practice of contemporary architecture of houses through industrial principles of construction and exaggerated sequencing of program. He was influenced by three large factors: that is, study of nature, the German influence of industrial architecture through monumentality of industrial form, Bauhaus school of design, and spirit of functionalism, along with modern technology, that is dome inno construction. In modern life, the world of activity has created own objects: pen, typewriter, furniture, ocean liner. Likewise, houses needs to be reinvented from clutches of pilasters, crowns, and so on. House is a machine for living in. It acquires clean air, full sunlight, and beauty in harmonious proportions. House as a living machine is retracting self from retreat mode to a transactional mode. House is a part that enables various parts of engagement of self and working of everyday life. The programmatic shift that inspired Corbusier was the term architectural promenade, means sequencing of spaces and movement pattern while arranging the functions. The intent was to expand and exaggerate the program of house that enables unveiling of various spaces. This was the earlier experiment with architectonics and exaggerated program. The machine for living in now is engulfed into the sequencing of time and space. The ideal of dome inno construction, sequencing of spaces, and exaggeration of program attained its full maturity in Villa Savoy. The house and program are no longer the terrain of arresting the ground plane and horizontality of sequencing, but rather elevating the same and creating movement vertically. Each space is a part of large centrifugal force of movement pattern, and yet attains its own unique situation with respect to what it arrests outside and what it attains inside throughout the day. The metaphor of house is a machine that are subjected to experience that enhance the living intensely. The mathematics of ideal villa, as Colin Rowe pointed out, the similarity between the spatial subdivision of Palladian villa and structural grid of villa by Corbusier. Both villas shared a similar proportioning system and relationship to a higher mathematical order. Le Corbusier's villa was composed of horizontal layers of free space defined by floor and roof slabs. The rooms varied in shape and were asymmetrically arranged at each level. Palladian's plan insists on centrality, while Corbusier's arrests with the self-imposed square, that is, spiraling quality of asymmetry. The contemporary practice that exists throughout the world is often unified and inclusive, not fragmentary and contradictory, like so much of the production of the first generation of modern international architects. The minimum form and reduction of program, almost nothing type construction confirms the Mies ideal of an anti-individual and architecture that precariously trapped between art and kitsch of 40s and 50s. The almost nothing is a metaphor of amalgamation of program and materials so much that building can change its functionality at any given time. The first generation of internationalist architect owe much to the Mies ideal and the Frankfurt House. Mies once said we should attempt to bring nature, house, and human being to a higher unity. Glass walls and open interior spaces are the feature that create an intense connection with outdoor environment while providing a framework reduces opaque interior to a minimum. The careful site design and integration of exterior environment represent a concerted effort to achieve an architecture wedded into its natural context. The idea of case study house, designed by Charles Sims, was to hypothesize a modern household, elaborate its functional requirement, and develop a design that met those requirements using modern materials and construction processes, and then to actually build the homes. The experimentation with program and modern technique redefined the modern home and modern household. It sets the new construction material and methods in housing that continue to influence till date. This house literally challenged the relationship between living and working spaces and mobilized the newer way of imagining architecture. Khan earlier experiments with his buildings into what he called served spaces and servant spaces. The Esherick house is organized into four alternating served and servant spaces, which in this case are parallel two-story strips that run the full width of the house, between front to the back. The house program is divided into opaque and transparent spaces. The earlier work of Khan created a kind of a post-Miesian space, an asymmetrical architecture of almost nothing, which depended no longer on the manifestation of structure as a frame, but rather on manipulation of surfaces as the ultimate agent for the revelation of light, space, and support. This house sets the program into well-articulated two cuboid volumes that are oriented differently. The skin of house is clearly demonstrating the division of program so as to have larger opaque and controlled transparent perforations. I hope that the lecture brings about clarity in maturing of early years of experimentation of techniques and program into more complex way of handling architecture and spatial articulation of the program. In the next lecture, we discuss the advanced interpretation of modern experimentation. Thank you.